I have some bad news. Architecture school is a bad idea unless... Hi, my name is Sara. I'm an architectural assistant here in Poland in Wrocław, and I studied both in Belfast, Northern Ireland, as well as in Stockholm, Sweden. After my master's, I did 2 internships within architecture, and now I'm still in the architecture industry. So what makes architecture so bad? I'm here to tell you why architecture might not be for you. This doesn't have to discourage you, but I think these things have to be said. Number 1, architecture school takes forever. You have to have at least your bachelor's degree and your master's degree for most countries to become an architect. And not even that, in the case of, for example, the UK or Poland, you still, on top of those 5 years, need to take a course that prepares you for an exam for your actual qualifications to call yourself an architect. Now, of course, this varies. So, for example, because I finished my master's in Sweden, I can call myself an architect, but only in Sweden. Now, this might be confusing, but the reason why is that sometimes in many countries, the word architect or the title architect is actually legally protected. What that means is that you have to fulfill specific requirements that usually, as I said, include an exam and qualification paperwork. This means that you have to have energy for the long run. This is a marathon and not a sprint. You basically spend an equivalent amount of time studying as a doctor's degree. And that's simply not for everyone. There's a lot of people that want to go straight into work and level up from there. But if you want to be an architect, and as I said, in some countries that is a legally protected title, that will take years. Number 2, something that is not spoken about enough is that usually for those countries that have the legally protected title, the courses and the exams cost money. And when I say cost money, they are expensive. Now, mind you, when I started architecture school, or even before, when I was dreaming of becoming an architect, I had no idea. Not only does some of the degrees cost money, but also the preparation for the exams for your qualifications costs money, and then taking the exam itself costs money. And guess what? To be part of architectural organizations of specific countries, to be a registered chartered architect, you have to pay memberships. You have to pay money to pay money to pay money. And let me tell you, right now, architects do not earn the highest salary. It is a long run to earn a high-paying salary in architecture. You have to be really committed and really passionate about architecture to really survive this. Number 3, why architecture might be not for you is that architecture school is just built different. So it's completely different from, for example, the structure of a psychology degree or a biology degree or even a physics degree, a finance degree. It is completely different. Now, of course, I'm not speaking for all architecture schools because I only attended 2, but a lot of architecture schools are course-based. And what that means is you might not have exams, but you will be tested pretty much every week. And by tested, I mean that the work that you produce, you have to pitch, talk about, present publicly, and then have tutors, board members, other colleagues from university basically analyze every aspect of it. And it's a lot of judgment, a lot of time, and a lot of feedback. So if you're not good with hearing something negative about the work that you produce, architecture might not be for you because it is a lot of that. It's a lot of criticism, it's a lot of pointing and discussion. And unlike in a law degree, it's not about really proving your own point or defending your point. It's about taking that feedback on board and improving the project. So if you're someone that's stubborn, if you're someone that doesn't take criticism well, architecture school will be difficult. It's not impossible, but it's difficult. I remember the amount of presentations that we had, the amount of comparison, the amount of stress of constantly creating more and more and more. Architecture school, and maybe this is reason number 4, requires a lot of constant and consistent work. There's no end to a project. A project will never be fully finished. There's always something to add, to develop, to improve. And if you struggle with putting an end or finishing projects within your own time, that could also be a challenge. It is not easy to let go of a project, even though there are deadlines and requirements to be met. Reason number 5 why architecture and architecture school, it might not be for you, that in architecture, you cannot ever stop learning and keeping yourself updated on regulations and what's happening in the world in your industry. Now, of course, this can apply to any industry, I agree. However, in architecture, the word itself has such a broad definition that it's just simply impossible to learn everything, even in those 5 years of architecture school. People say that architecture is a slow career, and that's because a lot of things you have to learn just through experience and not theoretical learning. Architecture can be described as learning the law of building regulation and rules and requirements. It can also be defined as this creative field of designing atmospheres and designing feelings and spaces that evoke a certain behavior or mindset. But architecture can also be defined as a very construction-focused physics. It can be defined as the physical object of bricks being laid one on top of each other. Architecture can also be defined as putting temporary objects together. A tent could be called architecture. There's so many different definitions to the industry, and as an architect, you kind of work with all of them, even if you pick a niche within the industry and within your interest. So if you're not a generalist, architecture specifically might not be for you. You might want to look into something specific like interior architecture or architecture that's designed generatively through code, for example. But architecture as the broad theme requires a lot of open-mindedness to hundreds of topics and knowledge that you will just need to sponge up throughout years of your career. And speaking of it being a slow career, you will be a beginner for a very long time. And whether that is in the UK, in Sweden, in Poland, it doesn't change the fact that you will be a junior architect for quite a bit. Just because there's so much to learn, and you can only get over that hurdle through years of experience and working with clients, with the construction team, learning the dynamics of an architectural studio. It's endless. One thing that also is important to mention is that because you're expected to produce so much and just produce so much work, ideas, iterations, forms of your project, and learn so many skills throughout those 5 years of architecture school, you can burn out really easily. If you're a creative person, if you love art, if you love to sketch, if you love to express yourself within art and the creative realm, you can lose that passion in architecture school. This is not a recipe, and I'm not saying everyone loses their passion. Some people thrive. However, if you push yourself or spread yourself too thin, architecture school can really kill the inspiration you have when you start, because you are expected to weekly come up with ideas, changes, flows, or layouts, and it's really hard. It's really difficult. Another thing that might scare you away from architecture is that if you're looking for stability and guarantee of a job, that is not the case for architecture. Architecture and the architectural industry flows with how the market's doing, with how economy is doing in certain countries. It has to do a lot with how socially people are doing, if they have the budget for housing, if they have the budget for projects, if clients are popping up, or if there's a lull. So it is quite difficult to get your foot in the door at the start. And of course, there are periods of time where it's easier and there's a period of time where it's more difficult. But unlike some other professions, the architecture one isn't such a sure and secure job guarantee. And that's the sad truth. It took almost 150 applications from my side to get a first job within architecture. And it was a long and exhausting process. And I'm not saying that it's not difficult to get a job in other industries. However, that's just the reality of things, that architecture historically has been a really difficult industry to get into and to grow in. A lot of people actually switch after finishing architecture to do other things. So it's not like 100% of architectural graduates are actually going to pursue architecture. So all in all, I think architecture school might not be the best choice for people that don't have the patience for the long run that is becoming an architect. Of course, if you're thinking of doing architecture school with the prospect of just learning and seeing where it takes you, then absolutely go for it. And if none of this has deterred you and you're still thinking, I can do this, then architecture is 100% for you. So why am I here? I'm talking all this negative stuff, right? And yet I still plan to become an architect. So what is it about architecture that is actually great? Stay tuned for part 2, why you should study architecture and what's great about it. Because let me tell you, there's equally just as much good as there is bad. So stay tuned. And if you're still watching, thank you so much. It means the world to me. If you could leave me a little book emoji in the comments, that would be great. I know that you have watched the video to the end. And let me know what you think. Do you agree with what I said? Because let's just say it, architecture school is not for everyone. And that's fine. Just like law school isn't for everyone. Anyway, leave a like if you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time. Bye!